Welcome to Residential Tech Talks. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Executive Editor of Residential Tech Today. On this week's podcast, Jamie Briesemeister joins us from St. Louis, where she is CEO and co-founder of Integration Controls, a company that provides well-hidden technology and connected living through smart home automation. It's Women's History Month, so I've chosen to finish out March with interviews of powerful female business owners. And while Jamie is, in fact, a prior guest of the podcast, since her last appearance 15 months ago, two really cool things have happened for her. She was appointed as the first female Vice Chairperson of CEDIA, the Global Industry Association for the Custom Home Technology Industry. Jamie was also named a 2022 St. Louis Titan 100, a program that recognizes her city's top 100 CEOs and C-level executives. According to Titan, these are the area's most accomplished business leaders in their industry, demonstrating exceptional leadership, vision, and passion. Jamie is a good friend, an excellent role model, and from what I can tell, a pretty great boss. I'm happy to welcome her back to the podcast. Jamie Briesemeister, thanks for joining me again today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here always. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too. Last time you were on the podcast, it was a great conversation. We did our thing where we go back to what you're like as a kid and how you made your way into the industry and some of your business philosophy. But we got off the podcast, and being that it was January 6, 2021, which was my daughter's 15th birthday, she's 16 now, but it was also that horrible day in DC. And I'm hoping that after we get off the podcast today, that as we look back at our phones, that world events are just as crazy as when we started and nothing else has happened.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't want to be known for bringing bad luck or anything.
I know. It's like, how could I go from such a pleasant conversation with such a great person to like this mess?
The world is juxtaposed, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I did want to congratulate you on your appointment to the executive committee for CEDIA. Being the first female vice chairperson and highest ranking woman in the history of CEDIA's board is quite the accomplishment. I think that previously, as my research was not super great, but I remember Marilyn Sanford being one of the higher ranking CEDIA board members over the years. She was the owner of La Scala in Vancouver, Canada. And I believe she was a treasurer at the highest point.
Yeah. And she was kind of an icon of mine. I didn't really know that when I found La Scala as a company, that I saw them first. They had won an award or were printed in a publication. And I was like, I want to be them when we grow up. Like that's what I want to be. And I had no idea that it was run by women. So I thought that was really interesting when I found that out. And she had been on the executive committee at some point in time. I just don't know exactly what position she sat. So I guess.
Yeah, I believe I was able to kind of track down this treasurer, but not to toot your own horn. I know that's not what you're in this for, but how important do you think it is in our male-dominated industry to be able to show, for one thing, other women that it's possible to reach this level of influence in the industry, and maybe just as important to have a female voice near the top of the industry that traditionally has been more male perspectives, even though typically 50% of the client base is female, I would guess, being husbands and wives and that sort of thing. Yeah. So those are a couple of questions for you in one, but what do you think?
At first I would like to say, it doesn't matter. I don't really toot my own horn. But in a lot of ways it does. I won a Volunteer of the Year award and was then, Amanda Wildman came and introduced herself to me and a few others, and Tom Doherty's daughter as well. And through that, it did kind of show me like it's important to be seen, to show other women, young women who are established, et cetera, that were either continuing, to carry the torch for those that have gone before us, or that we're there to hold our hands out to those women and young folk that are behind us, or coming into the industry. I never really set out to win these awards for those reasons. But at the same time, when you get a chance to have a minute on stage and share a little bit, whether it's a virtual stage like this or, in person, I think it is important to really show other people that with hard work, anything's possible. It doesn't really matter what your gender is. And in this world, there have been some maybe additional struggles because I am a woman, but at the same time, there are different struggles because I'm a woman in other parts of the world and likely for men in other parts of the world too. So um, I think it is important at the same time to have a voice at a high level on the executive committee for CEDIA because of the science and the statistics behind having women in leadership. It's kind of beyond just the feel goods of helping women see that it's possible, but truly leads to better decision making, deeper and different perspectives. And studies have shown across the board that an equal board in all forms, whether it's executive or what have you, any kind of group composed of, diversity is really a group that works best. So it's exciting to be a part of that, especially for CEDIA.
Well, last week's guest on the podcast, which as we're recording now is our current guest, is Melanie Niemerg, owner of Integral Systems in Clearwater. Yeah. And we kind of discovered each other on LinkedIn, and I saw comments back and forth with your peer group, really, of female leadership in the industry. I would say that she not only name checked you and she name tagged you and Heather Sidorowicz as two people who had influenced her and helped her in some just moral support kind of situations and different questions she had. And like I said, I see you guys posting and kind of cheering each other on LinkedIn. And I just wondered, that network's got to be great. You have meetings from time to time, just a virtual type of thing, right? Where you talk to each other about industry stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes it's really ad hoc. Like if there's an issue that one of us has come up with, it's a phone call. Hey, I need to work through this. And just like any business owner would, it's not specific to being a woman in the industry. Maybe it is, a lot of us work with our spouse, so sometimes there's those kinds of questions. But beyond that, it's great, and it's great to cheer each other on. I think before KBIS, Melanie it was her first time to be on stage and introduce a few people. And, we all get the squirrelies whenever that happens when it's our first time. So it's just nice to have support from people that have been there before, in any kind of environment. I would hope that guys do that for each other as well, in the industry, support each other and, give pats on the back where they're due. And I know it certainly helped me to have my own kind of insider tribe. I have the people that I work with in my company. I have 13 people, one of which is another woman, but we don't work day to day in and out all the time together. So we are kind of our own, little microcosm in this world of men. And it's nice to have other women in the industry to reach out to, just friends, really, more than anything.
Right.
To kind of bounce ideas off of, or say, in particular, coming up on KBIS, I was late to create a presentation. I was really nervous about it. And I told Katie, our mutual friend, Katie Bennett, I said, my imposter syndrome is kicking in hard and I am just not finding the energy. And I am starting to sabotage, and she kind of helped me kick that crap to the curb, and get motivated to move past it. And I feel a little vulnerable saying that, but at the same time, I think we all have that, and
Yeah.
I just happened to have someone I could reach out to that I knew felt similarly at times, and I knew would be there to support me, and she was, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of vulnerability, I I had a very strong role model, and my mom growing up. She raised me as a single mom, even though my dad and I are super close, and I saw him every week. From a day-to-day standpoint, I had a very strong female presence in my life. And so I tend to, when I talk to women at events, I tend to be more relaxed than I am against guys who I feel like I'm almost doing that imposter thing with.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a guy. And it was interesting. I was talking to Katie Bennett, emailing back and forth. I think maybe even setting up this interview because she's working with you on stuff. And she said that something had came up about how she would get stressed out and get migraines at shows. And one time was just debilitating, where she was just basically going back to her room when she couldn't function, and connected with me just to set up a meeting and said, I'm sorry, I'm not really doing well today. And I told her I have the same problem. I mean, every time I go to a show, or at least in the past, was that stress would trigger it. And it was a lot of social anxiety and stuff like that. So it's something about being able to admit that, acknowledge that helps you get past it and prepare for that next thing. And Melanie was talking last week on the podcast that she was talking to you all about this book about saying yes, I think it's called, and how that's been her philosophy for the year since that topic came up. And it's leading to so many things for her. It's just one yes leads to another yes, and it's just about not being too intimidated or scared to try something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of peer-to-peer stuff just sounds like it's so helpful.
We as people put a lot of self-limiting beliefs on ourselves. I mean, we do, and certainly in this industry where we're coming at it from, many of us completely different angles for different reasons than many others. It is nice to connect, share books, share resources, share the little tips and tricks that can help you get through a barrier that either you put on yourself or that you feel is, in the world in general. And some of it is really just getting out of your own head too, and having the support there to say, yeah, you should get out of your own head because you're really a badass and you can do so much more if you just get out of your way and step into your light. And that's, for a lot of us, that's been kind of a challenge. We came into this to help our husbands with their businesses, not necessarily be the leader in the company. And that transition takes time within your own company for that culture shift, for it to really kind of be felt and make it feel real, truly. And if anything, the pandemic kind of is what smacked me upside the face enough to say, no, this really is yours to lead.
So what happened? What was it during that time period? I mean, we've all gone through it, but what was it that really changed your thought process?
Well, my therapist told me that it's okay to just do enough, because I needed to just do enough for a little while. But then I just kind of did just enough for a little too long, maybe. Okay, candidly. And I had a member on my team who was challenging me at every minute, and every step of the way. And in some ways, combatively and not necessarily in a healthy way, right? But also in ways that really challenged me to grow outside of my comfort zone. To be a better leader, because he was pushing me to either fail or fly, and I wasn't going to fail. I wanted to do everything I could to really make it right, and he was creating good challenges along the way, to make that so. And in some ways, a challenging employee can really teach you a lot. And it's not so much he was challenging, just wasn't quite the right fit for us long term, but really good fit for us. Taught me a lot of lessons.
That's interesting. So it was not an intentional challenge. It's just the way he was acting.
Maybe he thought, they were intentional to him. Maybe, I don't know. But more that, questions, as we're growing, I thought certain things were pretty crystal clear. But then he would kind of spotlight some ambiguity in our processes, in who did what, in accountability. And I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, you're right. We need to, dot our I's and cross our T's. I thought in certain ways our quality was at a level, and it was in many ways with certain members of our team, but not all.
Mm.
And I didn't really know that we had a heavy load really was on some team members and not so much on others. So um, it's not always easy to look at your team and people that you really like and care about and go, oh no, you really need to find another future because you're not cutting the mustard here. So it was that, it was in a way, he had come out of a much larger company. And I think, we had been building our company to be bigger, to be more transparent, more clear, more written down, process oriented, so that we could hand it, in some way, hand them a manual and say, okay, here's your job, let's go. And have it not be like it typically is in our industry where, it's all just, a little bit of chaos with each new person that you hire. So,
Well, how much of a challenge is it? And this is going to be carefully worded because I don't want it to come out the wrong way, but when you have been the support person for your husband in a company ownership structure, so therefore you're maybe, and being female, and this isn't the case for everybody, but you're not out in the field necessarily doing
right.
the work in the attic and the basement and stuff like that. What are you missing out in the field? How much is it about learning, okay, I need to have the structure in place where there's that manager in the field that is my eyes and ears and saying, this is not working here, it is working really well here. And that's part of that learning curve of that observation that he made. Like he's giving you the hard truth of it. Yeah, you think that system is good, but out in the world, it's not working as well as maybe you thought it was or something.
Yeah. And that's it. It's like, okay, well, maybe we really need to focus on how we're deploying these systems, what products we're using. Do we have the right programmer on board? Do we, certain things like that? Because as a custom integrator, you'd have access to so many things and you want to create with all of these tools. But that doesn't always mean that by doing so, you create a good, solid, reliable, profitable system at the end. And we've learned that through time. But sometimes, just because we've learned it and we know that, we're still met with something, maybe an opportunity, a certain particular client system that needs a tweaky thing that doesn't fit our norm. And I guess that was happening a few more times than I'd realized. I think part of it was not necessarily verifying whenever you delegate. And it was that part that I had not really paid as much attention to as a leader. I would delegate and assume that it would be done correctly. And instead of assuming that's where I got into some, learning lessons that you need to delegate and verify, especially as you grow. And I kind of just trusted that my team knew the direction, but they needed more guidance than I gave them. And conversely, as we grew and those managers, they didn't really always know how to manage other people too. And so that's constant learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's a fine line between micromanaging and just checking in on folks and making sure everything's working. Yeah, that's a tough balance.
It is, and we were told by our EOS coach, which we started during the pandemic, and it has been the thing that really helped provide good structure and what have you for our meetings and goal setting and that sort of thing. But it was exactly that. It was needing to align, needing to identify those key values that really keep and drive us as integration controls. And delegating is great, but making sure to circle back and verify. And that was the piece that we had just kind of all kind of, I think we just grew a little quicker and didn't check in. And it wasn't
Right.
detrimental. I mean, there were just, certain projects, certain things that just don't go the way you want, right? And we all have them.
Yeah.
That's how you
Well,
grow.
yeah, for sure. Well, we will continue our conversation with Jamie Briesemeister after the break.
Do you want superior smart home automation at a great value? Shelly Wi-Fi relays by Alterco Robotics cover DC to line voltage, allowing you to control lights, outlets, appliances, garage doors, pumps, and much more. There are Shelly sensors and power measurement devices to help you measure temperature, humidity, lux, or motion, and electrical consumption from single wire to 3-phase with neutral. You can use Shelly with a licensed driver for Control 4, Elon, or other premium systems, as well as your customer's existing hub, voice assistant, or any platform that accepts REST, MQTT, or CoAP. Shelly can make IoT very easy. Available now at Blackwire, City Electric Supply, and Worthington, or at shellyusa.com.
Welcome back. We're talking with Jamie Briesemeister, CEO and co-founder of Integration Controls in St. Louis, Missouri. Jamie's shifting away from some of the leadership topics and more into something that I kind of just want to hit on before we move back into more company conversation and industry observations. But you're at a unique role, as we said, at CEDIA, being in the executive team there. What about CEDIA should folks know is happening right now? I know we're really in the early stages of our new CEO, Daryl Friedman, who you helped get hired there, and I think he was a great pick. Is from what I can observe, most people in the industry don't really care about the inner workings of CEDIA as an organization, but I think that it's such an important thing to realize it's going on. That there's stuff that's going on behind the scenes that's benefiting them, whether they're a CEDIA member or not.
Yeah.
What's important right now in the current state of CEDIA as an organization, as we get past pandemic as being such a priority focus and more into just let's move ahead, I guess. What should we know?
Well, you touched on a key element. We have a new leader, Daryl Friedman, who has come into the association. He was on the fringe before, being part of the Grammys and what have you, but under his leadership, I feel it's important for any CEDIA member and anyone in home technology business, really, to know that that CEDIA is out there as an advocacy force for the entire industry itself. And that means education, that means governance, that means all kinds of things. Recently, there was an initiative in Texas that had it passed, many integrators, CEDIA members and not, would have been unable to work the next day. So certain things in governance and advocacy that are happening in Capitol Hill are really important to how we function our business on a day-to-day, whether it's union related, electrical related. There's electricians that we tend to combat with in certain markets. In other markets, they tend to be very collaborative. But CEDIA is out there working on behalf of the entire industry. And I think that's really important to know that $500 fee or whatever it is that you pay goes to support an organization that's doing more than just, creating standards, which is really important, doing more than educating the design build community, which is really important. They're out there making sure that we can actually continue to work. And that's something I think most people truly don't know about the association itself. They see the awards and some of the, online education, and all of that's fantastic, but it means nothing if we can't actually go to work and do our trade, our craft.
Yeah, and that's an area that I've always felt was the most important, the government affairs part of it, and the fact that it's still the same issues that are getting batted down with like legislation. Many years ago, I mean, I was talking about this 20 years ago, we were having these conversations. It's still coming up in state legislators, I guess. And it's maybe because electrical is a bigger, well-known organization, and
Yeah, and because
they're still threatened.
technologies are changing too, and they're feeling threatened. I mean, lighting
Hmm.
technologies, power to a home, their whole infrastructure and the electrical trade is challenged in some way, that they either need to adapt and start learning some more intelligence as part of their pulling Romex and swinging a wire. Now you need to learn how to break out a laptop and configure a system,
Hmm.
where typically that's not what they're used to. So that's where we come in, and that creates a threat to their industry.
Hmm.
A lot of people are looking at it like, well, let's create legislation that then, allows these people to work and not those people. Ideally, we should all work together and,
Yeah.
create some kind of standard where we all can move forward with. And that's part of what CEDIA has done with their CIT program and their ISD, getting an ANSI and ISO certified, trying to create a criteria that can at least say, well, if you say that, electricians have to have this, or that somebody has to have this certification to run wire, then this should equate to that. And therefore, it's a non-issue at that point in time. But it's a, crawl, walk, run, and it really depends on the states and what happens at a national level too. And so CEDIA is watching that constantly, which is, exhausting in some ways, but also really certainly needed for, like I said, for any of us to actually go to work. We want to make sure that there aren't any kind of governmental regulations that prevent that one day just because we happen to miss a vote. So
Yeah, that's pretty scary.
yeah.
We had Patrick Laidlaw on
Oh yeah.
from you know him
Yeah, from
from
WC. Hmm.
WAC, yeah, and
Yeah.
he really illustrated the way that partnership could work ideally between electricians and integrators who are doing lighting,
Hmm.
and I think that is such a learning curve for our industry, just to understand how to not look like a threat, but to look like a partner with an electrician and say, hey, there's part of this that I'm just not going to do that you have to do. And the part that is probably not something you're ready to do yet, I'm ready to do and learn how to do it and trained on it.
Yeah.
And we'll give you the money that you would have had, because you're not, it's all about the money and not losing some of that income
Right.
for them.
And not losing face too, not making it look like you're ignorant, like the electricians are ignorant and we're coming in like we're, smart. Oops, sorry.
That's okay.
If you need to edit that out here, we might need to.
No,
Should we
you're
just let
fine.
it go for a minute?
It's real life. We have real life on podcasts, so everybody's used to it. Well, so how about integration controls? Are you doing lighting now as well as the stuff that we've been doing for a long time in this industry?
Well, we've been doing lighting control for a long time in the
Sure.
industry, and yeah, and lighting fixtures have been certainly an area that we've been looking at for a long time.
Mhm.
This might be going on for a little while, honestly. I think there's a dog like challenging mine outside. So
That's okay.
anyway,
It's not terrible. You're fine.
so but no, we have been asked so many times in the past couple of years, do you guys do landscape lighting? We're like, no.
Mm.
And then these amazing manufacturers are coming up with great products and solutions. And I know we can do it. It's more about, I don't know, being scared to pull the Band-Aid off and just, make it happen. So we have our own project. A friend of mine is interested in some lighting as well. So I like to beta test on, us and others to make sure we have our process and our pricing down. So we, don't sell something that's going to be a disaster. Not that we would. What I think is pretty awesome are that manufacturers are helping in the design and pricing concept for, getting us started. And that certainly helps a lot. Knowing that they'd be there to back up their product and their solution with products like WAC and others, it's been really nice. We just came back from ProSource a couple of weeks ago, where you and I saw each other right as the pandemic, I think, shook down a couple of years ago. And tons of lighting products were being shown there. And really, really fascinating ones that I actually came back, even spoke to a few designers, a couple of electricians, and said, hey, what are you guys seeing in the industry, and how can we make some of these solutions happen together? So, the conversation's starting, and I think it's to that point of working with an electrician is finding someone that wants to do a certain part of their work and not the other, and then just collaborating with them, making it win-win, whether it's however the money flows. A lot of times it's just referral, saving face, making sure that you don't look ignorant, and providing a really great solution at the end. At least that's kind of where I'm finding our market is landing.
Well, one of the points that Patrick made when we talked and when I saw him at the lighting conference a week earlier from that was that outdoor is a great way to get your foot kind of in the door with lighting installation. And that doesn't intrude on the electrician at all necessarily because it's all low voltage outside. So it's really just about whether you want to get in the dirt or not. And if you're doing outdoor audio, it's sort of a similar thing. Just a little more design, different design features than you would have from the audio. So it's an opportunity there for sure. What I was going to ask you though, as far as other technology trends, what is out of the pandemic? We had a lot of need for better networks, and I think you and I have talked about that already. But other than that, what do you see as sort of lasting trends, if you want, or just where the industry seems to be going from your perspective as an integration company, what clients are really interested in, where you're building systems? Do we go back to any dedicated home theaters still, or is it still a lot? Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is a trend that I have seen. Definitely. We have had more requests for home theaters in the past 6 months, truly, than we probably have in our 17 years of business. Now, maybe that's because we're doing a little bit different in marketing. But I really don't think so, because I do the marketing and I'm not really hitting on that too much. It's, we're an integration company. Home theaters have always been a part of what we can and do, design, build out, etc. But we're not the home theater company. We're not, that's not what we lead with. So when they come to us, typically it's because the homeowner has already wanted one. With that in mind, like I said, the increase has spiked tremendously over the past 6 months, to the point to where we've had clients fly to California to listen to some demo spaces that we don't have available here set up right now. PAT and theory are kind of the lines that we're really keyed up about right now, and have a couple of those already lined up, which is pretty amazing. The just overall upgrades to the home itself, really, Wi-Fi for sure, that's kind of a given. But just in general, just little tweaky updates, even down to I had a client reach out recently and just say, I really want to cut the cord and get more apps on my TV. Can you help out there? People are just trying to maximize what they have, especially as they wait for product to come in and if their projects are stalled. But home theaters are definitely a big one. It's kind of exciting to see.
That's the fun stuff of our industry.
Yeah, it is. I came into the industry, about 17 years ago, and home theaters were big-ish, but then it was also kind of turning into open floor plans and media rooms and things that were not quite dedicated. So it's neat. And now we have new products, especially like with Atmos. That wasn't around when I came in. So it's nice to relearn and have some new ways of going about system solutions that we can sell people. It's exciting.
And do you look at really large direct view TVs, or do you have like flat panel TVs, or do you do a 2-piece system in those cases, like a projector?
I would love to do direct view LED, but the price tag's really high. And I think the technology is still a little newish for people to feel comfortable. When they hear direct view LED, they think of that one time they saw it at one place and it had a whole thing of LEDs out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
sure.
that's immediately what they picture, the Jumbotron and the Cardinal Stadium that has a row of pixels that might be out, or whatever video wall. And they don't want that perceived service headache. And since I haven't done one, I can't guarantee what the service is or isn't. I can only tell you what my manufacturers tell me. And we all know that isn't necessarily always true. So right now we talk about it. We've bid out quite a few, but it's more two-part still, two-part projection, hidden display, so hidden screen, maybe a somewhat hidden projector. And I have to say, short throw projection screens, like, pretty impressive these days.
Yeah.
Really, really impressive for kind of a lower budget or specific need in a room. If you only have so much space, they're pretty impressive, I have to say.
And that gives you up to what size screen typically with that short throw?
I think it kind of depends on, how far away really you want from the wall, but you can get a screen up to 120 plus inches.
Right. And that saves you having to have a projector out in the room. It's just right up there. That's interesting to hear. I'm always curious to see how well those are sort of taking in the industry. We get a lot of press releases on them, and I just don't know where they fit in. So
we've now looked at a couple of them that we're really wanting to promote, and one of the things that's growth opportunity for us is a new showroom, a new office at some point in time, and I have a space where I want to showcase that so people know it's an option. We'll probably do so in the way we normally do. We'll build it into something and make it hidden still and really nice, so you won't even really know what it is, but I think that'd be cool too.
Well, definitely. I really appreciate those insights, and really great to hear about your, moving up the ladder with CEDIA and your accolades there locally. And I hope that 2022 is a great year for you, Jamie. It's great talking to you. Thanks so much for taking the time out today.
Thank you. It's always great to chat with you, and I appreciate the time.
Jamie Briesemeister is CEO and co-founder of Integration Controls in St. Louis, Missouri. You can learn more about her company at integrationcontrols.com. That wraps up today's show. If you're new to Residential Tech Talks, please subscribe to the weekly podcast on your preferred platform and consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Also, check out all the latest residential tech news at the magazine's website, restechtoday.com, where you can also subscribe to the bi-monthly print or digital magazine and to our Tuesday and Friday email newsletters. Until next time, please stay safe, stay inspired, and let us know if you have a great story to tell.
Residential Tech Talk, lighting specialist, architect, to that.
Home automation, smart device, home or smart house.